Welcome to the Be Empowered podcast with your host, Graham Hopkins. My goal is to help you regain your power by bridging the gap between who you think you are right now and who you really are. In simple language, that is like making your childhood dreams come true. This is for those who want to make an impact in their lives but don't know how to get there. Be ensured, when you know and feel connected to your spiritual mind, you master your world.
So welcome everybody to this edition of the Be Empowered Show. I'm your host, Graham Hopkins. The Be Empowered Show is just a conversation about what it's like to feel empowered, to feel connected to your own truth as opposed to feeling separate from. Today, our special guest is Robyn Busfield. Originally from Australia, Robyn now lives in Honolulu. She'll be looking forward to telling you the story of her journey of spiritual enlightenment. And with that, Robyn, I'd like to welcome you to the show.
Thank you, Graham. Thank you for having me. It's wonderful to be here.
So, Robyn, I'm curious as to your journey. I mean, you're now an author. You run you're a guest speaker on one of the television shows there in Honolulu. And I would like to kind of just know the journey which actually brought you this place of enlightenment and your spiritual journey. What, for instance, what brought you from Australia in the first place?
It was, in 97 when I began listening to the voice within. I had been through a couple of relationships, and I kind of came out of this relationship. I'd hit rock bottom, and I began kind of really questioning myself and really began questioning who am I and what is the makeup of the self. I was just really interested in the connections we have with other people, and I knew that there was some sort of deep connection that I'd had in previous relationships that I had this previous connection that I was just kind of interested in. And I kind of began kind of looking at the breakdown of self. I was like, okay, then there's the body, mind, and soul. And I got to soul, and I was like, I'm kind of really interested. Is this where this inner knowing is coming to me, where this voice? I knew there was something within me that knew everything. It knew what would happen around the corner. It knew what would happen tomorrow. It knew everything that was unfolding. I knew there was a voice within that knew something that Robyn, the brain of Robyn, didn't know. And I became really curious, really interested in this voice. So in 97, I began following and listening to this voice. And not long after, just 2 months after that the voice came on really strong one day and told me basically just to pack up all my belongings, just to pack up, move out of my home, rent my home out, and move to the States. It was a very strong knowing that I had to move to the States. I didn't know where, what part. I'd visited Hawaii before, so I was kind of hoping it would be Hawaii, but when I asked that and I said, am I going to Hawaii? The knowing, the voice within said, no, not now, later, but now, it won't be Hawaii. It wasn't long after that a friend brought her friend to stay with me in Sydney, and she was from, the South Bay of California. And next thing, she was inviting me to come and stay with her. So it was all, just watching it unfold was just like a miracle after miracle. There was not the only work programs that were available at the time was to do, I believe it was childcare or the summer camps. And I had been talking to this company in Sydney, in the city that would connect you with jobs in the States. And that was what was available. And I was like, that didn't feel right. I wasn't getting the yes that was it. And, sometime later, I was maybe a few months later, they called me and they said, we have a new program, a new visa that's just come out. We want you to be the guinea pig on it, and we want you, what is your position here? I was a real estate agent. They said, you can do the same position here over in California. So next thing I was applying in real estate positions. I was offered a position paid, not just commission, but paid, which was, not so much heard of in real estate there at the time. And so I ended up getting a position there. It was just like miracle after miracle. It all just unfolded beautifully. As I listened to this voice and I followed, I was just witnessing that this was indeed what I was supposed to do. So that was kind of the beginning of my spiritual journey, moving to California. I was in California for 12 years. I studied law of attraction for probably 10 or so of those 12 years. I listened a lot to Abraham Hicks. You've heard of Abraham Hicks. And I wrote a book called It's Time to Get Selfish. Time really focusing on listening to the inner guidance and listening to the soul and connecting to the inner voice within. That was released in 2006. As soon as that was released, I'd been following that for like a decade at the time. As soon as that was released, a friend of mine said, have you heard of a book called Disappearance of the Universe? That was by Gary Renard. And I hadn't. But the next day I felt my inner voice was like, yes, let's go get this book. So I went to Barnes & Noble to get Disappearance of the Universe, and it was like a 2-story Barnes & Noble in Delamo Mall in Torrance. And I remember I was about to go up the elevator, and I saw they had just ordered in It's Time to Get Selfish. I saw all my books on a table there, and that was the first time I'd seen them in Barnes & Noble. So I saw them, and then I went up the elevator and picked up Disappearance of the Universe, which is the book that led me to A Course in Miracles. That's how I began my journey on A Course in Miracles. So that was quite a shift, because all of a sudden, and I tell you the story about the elevator because it was kind of like that was the shift in my journey, going from that floor to the next floor. And I look back and I see that and it was quite a shift. Because when I picked up A Course in Miracles, after reading Gary Renard's book, Disappearance of the Universe, which led me to the Course in Miracles, when I picked that up, it was quite a shock for me to come to the realization that the world is a dream, an illusion. So, and that was something so far in my spiritual journey over those 10 years, over the decade, I was not aware of that. I had been basically listening, following my inner guidance and just really getting to that. So that's where everything shifted there to the Course in Miracles.
Well, I just want to ask you, Robyn, how do you know that when you hear this voice, how do you know the difference between that voice in your head that is a part of the illusion and what you call your inner guidance? What's the difference, and how do you know which one to follow?
I would say that for me, over the years, what became really clear to me is that the voice of love, I would call it the voice of fear, which is kind of feels like it's not really a feeling. It's kind of like stuck in my head. I would say if I'm listening to the voice of fear, I'm listening to thoughts and I'm running with the story in my head and I'm giving meaning to the thoughts. So I'm paying attention to the thoughts of fear. Or when I'm listening to my inner guidance, when I'm following love, the voice of love, I'm always in my heart center. I'm always coming, I feel like I'm dropping down in my heart center and I'm coming from like an open heart when I'm listening to the voice of love. It's more of a feeling and it feels good. Listening to the voice of love feels good. Listening to the voice of fear, you can really feel the disconnection, feeling the separation.
So the book that Robyn's talking about, The Course of Miracles, is this one. I've had a copy for years and I've read, I would say, probably a third of it, Robyn.
Yeah.
And what I read, I really enjoy. But what I really like about the Course in Miracles, it says in the introduction, it says it emphasizes application rather than theory and experience rather than theology.
Mm.
How have you integrated the teachings of the Course in Miracles into your life?
I would say from early on, I really trusted my guidance all the way with the Course in Miracles. I feel like that what really guided me through listening and learning to be able to implement it and experience it and live it was to really pick it up every time with the Holy Spirit. We say Holy Spirit is the terminology used in the Course in Miracles. Higher guidance, higher self, soul, our awakened self, whatever we choose to term it. But so it's really listening, and over the years, every time I picked it up, that was my dedication, to pick it up with listening to the voice of love.
Well, let me ask you a question. In the introduction, Robyn, it says the Course does not aim at teaching the meaning of love, for that is beyond what can be taught.
Right.
It does aim, however, to remove the blocks to the awareness of love's presence, which is your natural inheritance. The opposite of love is fear, but what is all-encompassing can have no opposite. Can you explain what that's actually saying?
Yeah. Well, A Course in Miracles is not aimed at seeking God, kind of fixing or changing anything. A Course in Miracles is aimed at removing the blockages to love's awareness. So it focuses on forgiveness and undoing the ego, undoing the fear, the blockages to love. So that's what the intention of the Course in Miracles is. It's not an intention to be fixing and changing or seeking to find love and hold on to love. Love is already fully present. We are the love that we are that in fullness. It's just that there's blockages to our awareness, love's presence, and that's what the Course in Miracles aims at removing.
So how would you define ego?
It's fear. It's the fear. It is the blockages to love's presence is the ego, and it's I would say that it is fear. It is all the seeming pain and suffering and anything that we label and give meaning to as other than love.
This is really handy having this discussion with you, because I read this book quite some time ago. And here's a saying that is quite predominant throughout the book that I've never really understood. So maybe you can help me. It says, nothing neat can be threatened. Nothing unreal exists. Hence lies the peace of God. What does that mean?
So nothing real can be threatened. Love is what is real, is only what is real, cannot be threatened. Nothing unreal exists. Illusion doesn't exist. The dream world doesn't exist. Herein lies the peace of God. When we know that love can never be threatened and there is no threat, that then we can rest into the peace of God. We know that love is truly all there is, and that is who we are.
Yeah. So really, the real that's talking about there is unconditional love, yeah?
Yeah, exactly, yeah. It's the presence, the full presence of love, which, is an unconditional presence of being, not judging, not giving meaning, not making something up, not grabbing, not fixing or changing, but just being the love that we are.
Okay, so it goes on to say it makes a fundamental distinction between the real and the unreal, between knowledge and perception. So knowledge and perception. Can you enlighten us a little bit more on that?
Knowledge there, what the course is referring to is that the knowledge is a knowledge of God, the knowledge of truth. And then what the course offers us is a shift in perception. And so the perception is when we're perceiving, the way that we perceive something here. So we're looking, and perceiving something in a particular way. And, if we're giving it meaning, then we're perceiving it as though love is not present. So as our perception shifts, and as we have a shift in perception with the assistance of looking through the eyes of love, with the assistance of the Holy Spirit, we have a shift in, that shift in perception where now we can drop into knowledge. Now we're no longer perceiving or giving it our meaning or caught up in the story, but now we drop into the knowledge of God, and now we just know the truth. There's nothing to give an opinion to or a judgment on or give any meaning to. We drop into the knowledge of who we truly are, and now we just know.
Yeah. Robyn, would you agree that a lot of people, when you talk about knowledge, they're thinking about head knowledge? What's the difference between what you're calling knowledge?
I see it in my mind. I see it as a little K or a capital K, in my mind. I see not because, knowledge, you can look at knowledge as being the knowledge of the world, of the dream world, and not, what we learn along the way. So if I read something and I read it as the knowledge of God, I'll often, just with a lead pencil, I'll often capitalize it and put a capital K on it. So it really, words can really throw us sometimes, because words can be used sometimes as the realization of truth for God, like knowledge, and then they can also be used, it's like mind, sometimes people see mind as kind of the brain or thinking mechanism of the mind, and then there's the mind of God. So, I think capitalization is really helpful, in books when we're reading to really see whether it's looking at truth. When I say truth, capital T, God, love, capital L. So, that's really helpful to determine. But words can, that's where the knowing comes in, dropping into the knowledge. Then we're not, that's where we have all of our truth is. I'm going like that down into my heart center, because that's where all our truth is. We drop out of our head. We get out of being heady and thinking, focusing on how we can fix things and change things. That's where our perception, that's where the shift in the perception occurs. And so then the Holy Spirit drops us down into our heart center, or our higher guidance, our awakened self, whatever you want to say, drops us down to our heart center, and it's kind of like, to me, the awakening process is, early on, on my journey, I noticed that my heart was closed. I could feel I had a closed heart. And so I've noticed on my journey that my heart's been like this. It kind of reminds me of the lotus flower, Buddhism, the lotus flower opening. It's like the journey of awakening, and I feel like that's the journey of the heart, and we can feel that on our path of awakening. We can really feel that our heart really begins to open, and we begin to feel and know with our heart. We get out of our head. We're not so heady, and we feel into this guidance from Spirit.
Just to explain that to people who are listening to this on a podcast, Robyn's making the action of a flower opening, and the petals opening in the sun would be a good analogy, wouldn't it?
Yes, beautiful analogy. Yeah, opening up toward the sunlight, toward the light of God. Yeah, exactly. It's like the heart opening toward the light of God. Yeah, and that's where the light of God is, in our heart. It's like the heart's opening toward the light, and then we come to see that the light is in our heart, that we are the light. And it just feels so beautiful when we recognize that the heart is being opened. That's really what the journey of awakening is to me. It's the heart is being open.
Robyn, would you say that the knowledge of God that you're talking about is the same as our truth?
The knowledge of God is the same as truth?
Yeah.
Yes, definitely. I would call it truth. I've heard it called that many times, a capital T, truth.
Yeah.
It's truth. Mm-hmm.
So the Course of Miracles says the world of perception is learned rather than given. What does that mean?
The world of perception is learned rather than given.
Yeah.
You say rather than given. So it's kind of like we go through in the world, in the dream world, that we go through learning, process of learning in our education. We're learning. And then say the rest of the sentence. I'm not familiar with that sentence. The world of
perception is learned rather than given.
Rather than given. The world of perception is...
So in other words, your truth is something that is given freely.
Yes. That's it. That's it what you're saying, because we're learning, but then when we really our heart centers begin to really open, it's provided, it's given. We're no longer. It's kind of like there's a learning that falls away. They say that with the Course in Miracles, it's not. We've come so far before we pick up a Course in Miracles where we're picking up knowledge with small k. We're picking up learning along the way. We're learning, and then with the Course in Miracles, we begin to unlearn. We begin to drop all the meaning that we've given to everything. They're the first few lessons in the workbook, the Course in Miracles. The first few lessons is that we're dropping, we're letting go of the meaning that we've given to everything, all the judgments. That's what we're being really asked to do. For us to be able to drop into our heart center and allow the heart to be open, we must let go of how we've decided the world should be, how we've decided things should look. In the wave, wait till we get to wave mastery. But Jeshua does tell us in wave mastery, he asks us to burn the word should.
So just to clarify this, do you think that the labels and the meanings that we give to things creates perception?
Yes, I would say that if we're perceiving something, then we're giving meaning to it. It's a shift in perception, but it's also useful. I wouldn't say that, look at perception and say that it's not a good thing. It's a tool. When handed over to the Holy Spirit, the shifting in perception, the perception is like helpful on our journey to be able to perceive while we're in the dream world, and while we're here, waking up to the truth of who we seemingly here, waking up to the truth of who we truly are. So perception is helpful and it's useful as we have that useful perception. But so it's a shift in perception. There's a shift in perception that occurs, and then so when we hand it all over to the Holy Spirit, then we begin to perceive in a holy sort of perception. We begin to perceive in a way that love would have us perceive. So, and that's, looking, I would say that perception is in line with looking through the, utilizing the eyes of human existence, and that's all useful when handed over to the Holy Spirit. That becomes wholly useful for the journey home.
Can you kind of put it into simple words? I mean, you and I are okay with the words, the world of perception, illusion. When people look at the real world, they defining what we can see and feel and touch with our five senses as being real. That you're saying that that's actually an illusion. So
right.
How do you get your head around that?
And that's a beautiful question. How do you get your head around it? And I would say that that's a great question to drop into the heart with and say, that's what we do our entire life. We get our head around it, right? So that's why it's such a beautiful question, because when we can drop into our heart center, then we can say, how can I get my heart around this? Because then when we drop in the heart center, then we can, and it's so beautiful, because I love where you're going with that, because that's where we drop into the knowledge. That's where we drop into the heart center. That's where we drop into who we truly are. When we truly have a look at that, we can really realize that in that is where you experience it. You said it in the beginning of the Course in Miracles. That's where we come to truly experience it, and that's where we truly know with a capital K.
So, when you say who we really are, what do you mean by that?
Well, we have an idea, and A Course in Miracles calls it a tiny mad idea. So we have an idea that we're something other than who we truly are. And it's just an idea. So we're really not, if we're believing that we're a separate body, if we're believing that we exist just in this space and time, and that we exist, and that this body is truly who we are, then that's where we want to wrap our heart around that idea and really bring that home to the Holy Spirit, really bring it home to our awakened self, and really ask ourselves, what is this belief that I have? Because this, who we truly are, is for many of us that believe that we're only exist in this space of the body, for many of us that believe that, then when we wrap our heart around it, we come to find that we are so much more than that. When our heart begins to truly open to the truth of who we are, we realize that we exist beyond the body, beyond time and space. That who we truly are is that voice within that we spoke at the beginning, the voice that guides us on the whole journey, the voice we begin to listen to within. We come to see that we are that voice. We come to find that there is absolutely no separation. There is no separation. There is source of creation, creator, and then the creator extending self to no self. So in extending self to no self, we are that extension in the Son of God, as termed in A Course in Miracles, that we are that extension of God. And in A Course in Miracles, Joshua shares with us that there is no way to differentiate between God and the Son, between Creator and created. In the Wave Mastery, Joshua goes on to explain a little further, and he does share with us that when we truly sit with this and we wrap our heart around it, when we truly sit with it, we come to see that we are so one with God that in Wave Mastery, Joshua refers to us as God, that we are so one with God that there is a slight, when we really, really sit with it and meditate with this, we come to see that we come to realize that we are not the creator. We didn't create ourselves. We are the created. So we are God in extension. We are God extending. But when we really open up and fall into the truth and realize the truth of who we are, we realize that there is no separation between God and the Son. So when we witness that there's oneness, that there is no separation, we see that our real self, our true self, is at one with everything. We are everything. We come to see that there truly isn't anything other than love. When there is only love, when there is only the one, then how can anything exist beyond love. So we come to find that love is behind everything. Love is behind the falling asleep, the seeming sleepiness in the dream world. Love is behind that. Love is behind the awakening. We are that one. We're behind all of that. There's nothing other than love. And so the real self, the real true us, we are the power of God. We are the knowledge of God. We are the abundance. We're all of it. There's nothing that we're not. And we take many seeming forms and seeming roles to play this out. But truly, we're behind our true self is behind all of that.
Hey, thanks so much for listening to the Be Empowered podcast. For more on regaining your power by bridging that gap between who you think you are right now and who you really are, go to www.beempoweredgroup.com and enter your name and email address to receive a free ebook and get notified of any upcoming podcasts. Remember, when you know and feel connected to your spiritual mind, you master your world. Changing your energy transforms your life.